in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to who? Sinisterhood. Hello and welcome to Freaky Friday, where we tell your odd but true stories. Today is Friday, August 18th, and we're so pleased to be with you today because we have 4 stories that you submitted and then a whole hell of a lot of stories, tangents, Freaky Friday and stuff at the end for you.
Ladies and tangents.
And tangents. We got both today. I cannot wait for you all to hear what a time we had.
A delight. Those two were to speak to. I feel like we knew them. We've known them our whole lives. Like, it just immediately, we all jumped in and we all have the same interest and similar, like, even lives and stories, kind of. And they're a ton of fun to talk to. If you haven't heard their podcast, Ladies and Tangents, go take a listen. And then, of course, you'll get to hear them at the end and find out where you can find them in other places, too.
For sure. And we're coming to you today, this Friday, August 18th. This is the day after our last live show. Thanks to everybody who came to our Full Moon Energy Tour this summer. We will be back. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to us, following, whatever, on all platforms because we will announce it there, but we'll really announce it on our Patreon next. Yes. That's like our absolute first line of announcement, and that's where you can get tickets in advance. So as soon as we have new dates for some Full Moon Energy shows, we'll have them on Patreon. So go to patreon.com/Sinisterhood and join so you'll be in the know. You can join for free and you just get the message, or join at a tier and get all the benefits too.
I would say you can also go get tickets, but since this is coming out after we finished, I'll say what a wonderful way to wrap up the final leg of the 2023 tour. We had a great time in Detroit, Columbus, and Pittsburgh.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Also, people are now starting to make friendship bracelets, and they're going to bring them to the shows and trade them like at Eras, and I'm dying.
It's so amazing. I wore my ones I got at DC to the Eras show, so we'll wear them. Bring those bracelets. We got our own our own kits now, and packs of them. We can make bracelets and give them to y'all.
Yes, honestly, that's what we should start doing because
we have a shitload of beads.
I don't know how to get through all of these beads. Like, there's too many beads in this house.
There's so many. Whenever we picked up our suitcases, it was like it sounds like a maraca or a can of it sounds like a suitcase full of beads because it was a suitcase full of beads.
I imagine everyone on the plane was like, what is that? Is that a rain stick? What's happening? You just hear
y'all had to check your bags at the last minute too. I imagine TSA opened it and was like zip and just beads shoot everywhere. It's like, never mind.
Well, that was a mistake.
Oh, a huge mistake.
Yeah, that's what we got for trying to board with your group.
I was trying to sneak you on.
We were supposed to board in the last group. They were like, you can go on, but your bags won't.
Dang it.
So didn't really matter in the end, but
it never does.
It all worked out. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get freaky. This first one is from Haley, and it is called My Mom and Grandparents Were in a Cult. Post-Death Secrets Uncovered. Hey there, y'all are great. Yada, yada, yada. I thought I would shoot my shot and tell y'all about the whirlwind I'm currently going through. To do that, it requires just a little background information. I've known since I was little that my maternal grandparents' religion was a bit odd. They were Jehovah's Witnesses, and let me tell you, even as a child, I knew the vibes were off. We lived in a split-level home just outside Richmond, Virginia. Me, my identical twin sister, and my parents lived upstairs, and my grandparents lived downstairs. I remember going down one Christmas morning to show Grandma my new Clifford the Big Red Dog plush, and my grandma simply saying, "That's nice." I'd never realized as a kid, and never been told, that JWs don't celebrate Christmas or even birthdays. Looking back as an adult in her mid-20s, this makes a lot more sense to me now. My grandparents were extremely devout JWs. Even into my grandma's early 80s, she was still knocking door to door in her iconic shoulder-padded blazers and neatly pressed pencil skirts with nude pantyhose. Unfortunately, Both grandparents passed away within a few years of each other around 2010. My grandmother first and grandfather soon after. We didn't find out my grandpa had Alzheimer's until after my grandma had passed. She'd always passed his incoherence off as hearing loss, so she spoke on his behalf often. Going through their belongings, we found old, original, and dusty Jehovah's Witness records from the 1950s, canned food dating back to the late 90s. They were prepping for the end of the world. And a nicely posed portrait of a lady who was not my grandma in my grandfather's wallet. Also, the court paper transcripts where he was discharged from the army after some drunken shenanigans, resulting in a back injury. This isn't even the nitty-gritty part. After my mother's passing back in 2018, I'd learned some new tidbits about Mom. I'd heard from my aunt and stepfather that my mother had met her first husband, let's call him James, at the early age of 16 at a Jehovah's Witness cruise. This would have been the late 70s. Seems very ungroovy to me. Bunch of believers on a big boat. But I digress. Apparently, this dick-headed first husband was an abuser, despite coming from big coal money in small-town West Virginia. When he and my mother would stay with my aunt and uncle, he'd keep a gun under his pillow. Thankfully, the marriage didn't last long, and neither did my mother, being a Jehovah's Witness. Bear in mind, I'm just finding all of this out. There's more to add to this saga, but I'd like to keep it as short as I can since it's my first time writing in. Looking forward to seeing you ladies tomorrow night in DC. Thank you for keeping me company while I work. Y'all are the best. Haley.
Well, Haley, thank you for coming to the show in DC. And what a trove of information to learn about your family.
To come out post-mortem is always
right.
A new level of having to unpack stuff, because you kind of realize, oh, the person I thought I knew wasn't really the person that I thought I knew, and then you're kind of start questioning all sorts. But sometimes things make sense. You're like, oh, that's why she was
they
like,
did that.
Oh, that's nice. When you tried to show her my brand new shiny Clifford the Red Dog plush.
You could
Clifford,
muster a
the
little.
big red dog. How dare I leave out big?
Yeah, he earned that bigness by
huge.
growth alone.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an
kind
understatement.
of his whole thing is being big as fuck, so I gotta include big in there.
They undersell it with the big, honestly. But
Clifford,
just like they do,
gigantic red dog that can look in a second-story window. That's how big he is.
Clifford the dog, so big. You're not going to fucking believe it. Just take a look.
Clifford the
too
dog,
long.
So big, it's unnatural, honestly, and probably we shouldn't keep him as a pet, because who's cleaning up that poop?
No, it would destroy
how does he not
a home.
trample a child on accident?
Oh,
There's some fan fiction out there that I need to explore.
That's what it is. It's like speculative, horrible fiction of like Clifford gone mad.
Not even like me.
They don't make rabies vaccines that big. You don't know what you can get into. You get Bordetella, one sneeze and it take a house out.
Dude,
they're gone.
Yeah,
Their whole
right?
family's gone.
It's like you're like, where's that strong wind coming from? Clifford had too much beefarito at dinner tonight. Seinfeld reference.
We just watched that one.
Oh yeah. Well, I digress.
My God.
But yes,
Anyhow.
finding out things like this about your family after they are gone and you can't ask them about it anymore, that's a weird one.
It really is. And Jehovah's Witnesses, which is like Mormon, Christianity, whatever, where there's different gradations too and intensity levels that people follow it. And to not only find out that your family follows it, but that they were like prepping and there's canned goods and they're going on cruises and your mom had to meet somebody when she was 16. I can only hope that James was also 16, but I've got a gut feeling that he probably wasn't.
Yeah. That's, I hadn't even considered that, but I imagine that you were correct.
Yeah, just I might just have that in my head because I've been watching people on TikTok and YouTube like take down or kind of comment on like fundamentalists, it's grooming, honestly, but they call it courtship, and it's kind of like what we talked about in Quiverful. But where you see, a 16-year-old that's like, we got to get you married off, and then unfortunately you end up married to a person who sleeps with a gun under his pillow that you met on a cruise.
Yes, that your parents may have arranged that, and you don't even. You're not even old enough to drink.
Yeah, that sucks. But it's something to dig into. We were just talking about this recently, you and I, about digging into your ancestry and finding out, as much as you can from other people's records or public records or whatever. So good on you, Haley, for learning more stuff. But you can't control what you learn, I guess.
That is true. Keep us posted on if you find out anything else when you're going through your grandparents' things. Well, this next one is from Savannah, and it is called Candace Rough Surface, My Encounter with Her Killer. And just a content warning that there are mentions of sexual assault in this story. Hey guys, Savannah here. Today I wanted to tell you about my encounter with Nicholas Schur, the man who murdered Candace Rough Surface. In 2019, I was in hair school. The way my school operates is after your first 200 hours, you graduate basics and start out on the floor and taking clients. But during the week, you would still have one class day called advanced class. My class day was Wednesday. You'll understand why I'm telling you this in a minute. It was the middle of July and it was a Friday afternoon. Reception called me over the loudspeaker to let me know my client had arrived. I grabbed my sheet with the person's name and went to greet them. I said the name that was written, Tom, fake name, and I was soon greeted by Tom. My first observation of this man was that he looked like his skin was too tight on his face and looked unnatural. Also, he had the most piercing blue eyes that I've ever seen. He was also visibly dripping with sweat. Then Tom came up to me and told me, I ran all the way here for you, Savannah. I tried to come see you Wednesday, but I know you were in class, so that's why I'm here today on Friday. 1, it isn't public knowledge when the students have their class days. 2, I had never met this man in my life. How did he know that? I kind of brushed it off, saying, Are you ready to get your haircut started? As I began his service, he started talking to me and telling me about himself, such as, I used to live in Georgia with my twin brother, but I had to run away from there because the police kept accusing me of breaking into all these homes and raping women. So I ran all the way to Daytona Beach, Florida, but I had to run away from there too. The police kept trying to shoot me. So here I am. I ran all the way here for you. In my head, I was like, what the fuck? So I did exactly what I was taught to do. I went up to a coach and told her this man was making me feel very uncomfortable. The protocol at this school was that if a student didn't feel safe, the coach would finish the haircut. This coach said, and I quote, you can handle it. I don't feel like dealing with them. I was screaming, fuck you, in my head, then went back to finish his haircut. As he was checking out to leave, I thanked him as any nice person does, and he told me, don't worry, I'll be back for you. So I told the front desk, I will accept any punishment they decide for refusing a client because I will not be put in a position like that again. The way I discovered who this man really was went like this. I was over at a friend's house that following Sunday and was complaining about how I didn't sleep well the last 2 nights because I was having nightmares about this man. I started to describe what he looked like to her, and she stopped me, got on her phone, and 15 seconds later, I was looking at a news article that read, Update, newly released inmate in Mobridge slaying case to live in Sioux Falls. I was staring at the mugshot of Tom, who I discovered was actually named Nicholas Schur. For anyone who is not aware, when Schur and his cousin were 15 years old, they brutally raped and murdered 18-year-old Candace Rough Surface when they were giving her a ride home from a party. It was a cold case for 15 years before the two were arrested. Schur was released from the pen after serving 23 years of his 100-year sentence. Schur is now deceased, and I'm not as paranoid that some crazy-ass old man is going to be running after me anytime soon. I'm going to include the article with his mugshot so you guys can see what was looking back at me. In hindsight, I do think he was having some kind of mental break or episode because he doesn't have a brother, and to my knowledge, hadn't been in Georgia. Thank you for all you do, Heather and Christy. Much love from South Dakota.
The mugshot indeed is very startling, and especially just given he has a pretty specific appearance. You know what I mean? It's not like, I wouldn't really recognize him. I mean, he's got such a sharp face that features exactly as she described, and his eyes are so big and so round and so blue that I'm sure your friend was like, this person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Immediately you'd be like, oh, yeah, it's like a sketch artist, like trying to draw it out. It's exactly like you described as the skin being pulled over his face. It looks like his skin is too tight. Like it's, like a Skeletor or something. Very unsettling looking person. Certainly would not want to cut his hair, especially if he started saying this kind of stuff. And fuck your manager who was like, nah, you can deal with it.
That's so shitty to be like, your job as a manager, one of your many jobs as a manager, though, is ensuring the safety and comfort of your employees. And we've heard time and again cases where particularly women at work are being harassed by either a customer or a colleague, and the huge difference it makes when a manager just simply steps in and is like, nah, buddy, not here, not today.
No, we're not doing this.
We're not doing this. You can't talk like that. I'll finish your haircut and then you're actually banned. You can't come back here. So hopefully now the world we live in, this manager has learned their lesson. We're all learning our lessons.
I hope. This was in 2019, so.
Yeah, not that long ago. But to say like, I kept, they accused me of just to straight out mention raping women in the seat, and we met 30 seconds ago.
Right.
After you said, I came here specifically for you. I found out what day you work. Nah, that rose to the level of reporting. You were completely within your rights, Savannah.
Yes. And this is another situation that we see where people that are in a power imbalance at work feel like they're trapped and like, well, I guess then I have to go finish his haircut, when we should all be allowed to say, all right, well, I'm not doing it. So y'all figure it out, because he's talking about raping women and that he came here to see me. So I'll be in the break room until he's gone.
Right. Especially, you're right, like a case of a haircut or something where it's a personal service, where you're doing something where you're touching a person. It's very intimate. I was thinking that, I'm like, she has to touch at least his hair,
and
your
sweaty?
ear, your chin. He's drenched in sweat and is like, I came here just for you. Like, I get it. If he is having a mental episode, that doesn't mean he deserves to be sitting there in a haircut. Someone should respond to that and get him whatever assistance he needs. But it's not, the onus should not be put on the stylist to have to manage all that, especially when you're in your very early days of your career, that you've just now graduated your basics and you're still doing your class once a week. It's like very vulnerable to be like, well, you handle it.
I know, right? For those that aren't familiar with the murder of Candace Rough Surface, she was 18 at the time, a young mother of a 2-year-old. Nicholas Schur and his cousin were 15 and 16, and they encountered her, and her body was later found in a river, I believe near the land where she lived. And it is one of those many stories that we hear where an Indigenous woman goes missing and is murdered, and the white community didn't really care. And that's why it remained uncovered for so long. The only reason that it came to light was because during a divorce, one of the, I believe it was somebody's mother-in-law, one of the perpetrator's mother-in-law came forward and told the cops, which, why are you sitting on that, lady? It's going to take a messy divorce within your family to uncover something like that. Like, you report that as soon as you know it.
Yeah, you don't sit on that and wait. And especially, like you said, there is that the community, if they see him as a less missing person, like we talked about in a true crime headlines recently, where a lack of onus on the part of a lot of police departments, or unless they're specifically targeted towards, okay, we have this task force that's here to address this large number of missing people in this certain community, it's sometimes will fall by the wayside and go, oh, well, who knows what happened? She was 18, and they let it just fall by the wayside. But, and to me, 23 years seems like not long enough as far as a sentence goes. And it's articles that look like said that her son has become, Candace Rough Surface's son has become, more outspoken in the community, and saying that he really wanted to put more attention on cases like his mom's, and hopefully going forward, pressing law enforcement to act quicker and get closure and get an answer. And also for the rest of the society, get these people off the streets and keep us all safe sooner, and not just because of the type of victim they choose. What
a tragedy that at 3 years old, you probably don't have maybe a couple memories of your mom, but that your life in your 40s now, it's, you're dedicated to someone that you didn't even really, you can't remember, but without her, you wouldn't be here. And I think that's beautiful that even, he's 3, that he's still has that connection with her and has made it his mission to honor her life and change things.
Yeah, definitely. That's the only way you can maybe feel a connection, sadly.
Yeah, for sure.
Sinisterhood will be right back. Game changing. That's what Kitsch's biggest fans say about its time-saving beauty essentials for hair, skin, and body. And it's what we say too, because we freaking love Kitsch. So I got one question for you. You ready to change your beauty game?
Oh, I've been changing it ever since I've become a fan of Kitsch.
Yeah.
The heatless curling irons are such a game changer. So good for your hair. The eye mask, the pillowcases. Scrunchies? You were a scrunchie fan before we even started having them as a sponsor.
Oh, I got a Kitsch, the hair drying scrunchie years ago whenever they first came out, because somebody posted it, how much they loved it and how obsessed they were. And I was like, I'm in. So it's easy to see why everybody loves Kitsch. It was started in 2010 by selling hair ties door to door. It was just a hustle and a dream. It's self-funded, female founded, and now Kitsch is carried in over 20,000 retail locations.
Man, you know what I just realized?
What's up?
We have some things in common with Kitsch. We are not in over 20,000 retail locations.
But self-funded, female-founded, and we were selling the podcast door to door before we got microphones. People didn't like it; they shut the door in our faces. But
yeah, it was odd. We just tried to do our show right at their doorstep, and they're like, "What? I don't have this kind of time."
Get into what now?
Well, like we said, their best sellers include satin pillowcases, caps, eye masks. Also, the satin that they use is vegan and cruelty-free. So great for your hair and skin. Just makes sleeping that much more enjoyable.
It does. Kitsch also has rice water shampoo bars that can help with overall hair growth and density, as well as rosemary scalp oil that will help support scalp health and hair strength from root to tip, and so much more.
I use it. It smells good. It feels good. It just makes your hair feel like silky smooth, but it doesn't look oily. But I feel like, especially during the summer, because your hair is getting drier, you might be in the pool, outdoor more.
Crispy.
Yeah. So it's I find that it's a very nice little self-care thing to do for me before the shower that's super fast and easy.
Love it.
And like we already said, heatless satin curling rollers say bye-bye to heat damage. These are the original, the OG, and still the best heatless curlers. Don't settle for knockoffs. Get the ones that started the craze.
You got to have those. And I will say the hair clips they have is the best hair clip that's ever been made ever, period.
I love it. Right now, Kitsch is offering you 30% off your entire order at mykitsch.com/sinister.
That's right. 30% off anything and everything at mykitsch, spelled mykitsch.com/sinister.
One more time, mykitsch.com/sinister for 30% off your order.
Well, this next one is from Amy, and the subject line is psychologically affected property. And a content warning, this story has mentions of suicide. Love you both so much and so appreciative of you for reading this story. On a recent episode, you all talked about buying a home where a tragedy had occurred. This topic hits close to home for me. In fact, right next door. Several months ago, my husband and I arrived home from dinner to see our driveway full of flashing lights and emergency vehicles. At first, we panicked, thinking the emergency was at our home. We quickly realized the emergency was happening next door. Our driveway just happens to be in between both houses. Over the course of the next several hours, we watched out our window as nosy neighbors do. As far as we knew, there was only one person living in that home, and he was sitting on the porch talking to the police. I'm only slightly ashamed to admit how much research I did to try and figure out what happened that night. By searching my neighbor's name, I found an obituary for a woman who turned out to be his sister. It said she passed away at home, meaning she must have been living next door. But of course, I couldn't stop there. With the amount of responders, I knew the death could not have been from natural causes. Luckily, one of our local newspapers publishes the cause of death for every individual who has passed in the county. Is this normal? It doesn't seem normal. I found out that this woman had taken her life and had done so very violently. I just felt awful. Although I didn't know her, she was so young, so close in age to me. I've struggled with suicidal ideation myself. But this is where the story gets complicated. Over the course of the next couple months, we noticed our neighbor was never home. On the weekends, he would show up with a truck and a trailer. He was clearly moving out. A friend of mine is a realtor, so I asked him, does the owner of the home have to disclose what happened? He told me that in our state, the type of event causes a house to be deemed psychologically impacted. Side note, I'm fascinated by this term because it implies that the house is so much more than just a physical structure. He said that the owner and realtor of the home are not required to disclose this information unless the buyer or their realtor were to ask. In fact, as a realtor, he prefers not to know such information, so that way he's not responsible for disclosing it if someone asks him. When the for sale sign went up next door, I began to panic. Did we have some responsibility in letting these people know what happened? How would I feel if I bought a home where something like this happened and all the neighbors knew, but no one told me? After talking to friends, family, and coworkers, I just decided I would keep my mouth shut. Most people said they would rather not know what happened, and several worried that the homeowner might retaliate. But when a family pulled up next door with 3 little kids, I wanted to throw up. How could I let these 3 kids live in a house where something like this happened? But I did. They made an offer on the house the day it went on the market, and I watched with dread as they moved in. A couple days after they moved in, our kids wanted to take them cookies. My husband agreed to walk over with them, but I stayed home. I just couldn't be in that house. I couldn't look at that family in that house. After the visit, my husband revealed that the family had lost their last home to a horrible fire. They had lost nearly everything and had been staying with friends and family for the past several months. That confirmed for me that I made the right decision in not telling them. They needed this home, and they didn't need a nosy neighbor like me to ruin it for them. My kids know what happened next door, but I've told them that they will be grounded until adulthood if they ever speak of it to their friends next door. Those kids have been through enough. Thanks for taking the time to read. Amy. Well, Amy, I think you made the right move. Like you said, those sounds like they really needed that house, and they'll make new happy memories there.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I do think it's not your story to tell, but at the same time, I also can see the point of view of if someone moved in and everyone in the neighborhood knew, and except for you, you might feel like nobody could have given me a heads up, but also maybe they don't want, you got kids, you might not want to know something like that, or maybe they did know. I do find it interesting that it is considered psychologically impacted. I'd never heard that phrase before.
No, I haven't heard that phrase either. You hear it in different terms of it, just depending on what state and what the rules are. And her realtor friend makes a good point. Like, if you know something that could diminish the value, do you have a responsibility to disclose it and all that kind of stuff? And if certain things like a suicide is not as egregious as, say, murder, yeah, or something like that, where you say, okay, the law says I don't have to disclose it, but if they ask, that would be a lie. It's like a material misrepresentation about the house. So you would have to say, yes, this did happen, just if they ask. But I wonder if people just don't ask. I don't think I asked outright.
No, I didn't ask any. I was told of the family that lived here before we moved in because our realtor knew them. So,
oh, right.
And they had lived here for like 13 years. So I don't think anything happened, but I wouldn't know to ask. But also, if I did know to ask, would you ask?
Right. If you really like this house and it's a good deal. The other thing is Amy did some legwork to find out what happened. So as far as everybody in the neighborhood knows but them, unless everybody does as thorough research as Amy, reading the newspaper, searching the obituary, finding all that, then if you just happen to have that knowledge, that's on you. You looked it up, so now you're burdened with that knowledge. But if it's not common knowledge in the neighborhood, then I think you're right, would kind of do more harm as far as, you don't want to tell the person on the other side, oh, they bought that house. You remember that night all the ambulance and stuff was out there? I'll tell you why it was out there. That's when you go from concern to like Gladys Kravitz territory.
Right, yeah. Right? No, it's a very, obviously it's a tragedy. It's a very sensitive and emotional subject. So I think with those things, that's not my story to tell.
Yeah.
And, from tragedy comes someone else's, triumph, perhaps. Like they needed house to live in. Their home was burned down. That's awful. And these kids now have a place to stay. I agree that you would tell your own kids, hey, again, not our place to say anything like this. If someone were to ask me, okay, that's different. But we don't need to tell them. And we also don't need to be going around talking about it with all the other neighbors because, like you said, Gladys Kravitz type vibes then.
Right. Like, what good does it do? I keep asking myself in situations of like, well, what should I do here? I'm not really sure besides WWCWD, which I will always ask. And this kind of dovetails with it though. But in one of my Zen books, it was like, always try to be helpful and kind. And if you can't be both, try to at least be one. And then if you can't be neither, you can always at least be one. But yeah, right. Or then just shut up. But for like, you can always at least be one. And it's like, is it, if they came over and said, oh my gosh, like, I have weird vibes in the house, or whatever they wanted to say, or like, hey, everybody's whispering when they walk by the house, and I know our kids play together. Is there something I should know? Because people have been whispering and being weird. That's one thing, because that is helpful and kind. But if it is, we love this house, we're so glad to be in the neighborhood, then it's neither helpful nor kind to be like, knock, knock, knock.
True.
Hey, I'd like to ruin your American dream right now and tell you, that this isn't as picture perfect as you maybe thought it was.
It brings up a good point too of what you might find helpful might not really be helpful. I think a lot of times I have to like step back and be like, is this really helpful, or am I telling myself it's helpful because it's self-serving, for whatever purpose that might be. So you got to really kind of like zoom out and be like, objectively, is this a helpful thing to do?
Definitely put yourself in the shoes of the neighbor, which it sounds like Amy did. And I appreciate you sharing this story, Amy, because it's that we've all been there, right? Where you're like, I'm nosy. I want this more information, and having that thoughtfulness and the kindness. I really do appreciate you sharing this.
A lot of self-awareness and thoughtfulness. So thank you, Amy.
Well, this last one is from Joy, and the subject line is the unexplained music box in the middle of the night. Hey y'all, gotta give the typical I'm a huge fan spiel because you two are just so grounded, compassionate, genuine, and hilarious. Please never stop doing what you do. About 8 years ago, I was staying in Canada with my older sister because we were visiting family. One of our cousins was out of town, so we stayed in her bedroom during our visit. I was about 16, my sister 19. This was not an old house by any means, and we had slept over here and been in this bedroom multiple times. In fact, the old house had been torn down, and this new one built less than 4 years ago on the property, so the vibes had never been eerie or spooky. Well, my sister and I were in bed, lights off, chatting and late night giggling at 2 a.m. about the events of the visit so far, as sleep-deprived sisters do. It was storming out, and we eventually decided to stop talking and go to bed while listening to the rain. Except, right after we stopped talking and began sitting in the silence of the room, light rain beating on the window, we heard a click sound and a dainty song began playing. The fear didn't hit me right away, as I'm fairly rational and was already trying to deduce a logical explanation as to why music might have started playing. But when I turned to my older sister with a goofy, "That's weird" expression, she turned to me with a look of terror. All at once, I realized this was a music box playing and not an alarm clock, a radio, or one of our phones. A music box that would need to be wound up or opened to play. As this hit me, my sister threw off the covers and sprinted out of the room, leaving me in the dust. After a moment of feeling the betrayal of my older sister, leaving me with a potential ghost without a second thought, I jumped up and yelled, "Hey, wait for me!" with a quivering voice. We ran up to the room our mom was staying in to wake her up and recount what just happened. We were so shaken we stayed in her room on the floor that night. The next morning, my cousin was back at the house, and we asked if she had a music box in her room. It turned out she had about 8 music boxes for some reason. Side note, nobody needs 8 music boxes. That's just asking for something creepy to happen. So we made her go through each one, winding it up or opening it to play them. After the 8th one, my sister and I looked at each other, horrified. None of these played the tune we had heard last night. We pointed to the wall that the sound had come from, and our cousin takes one look and goes, "Oh, wait." She pulled down a dusty doll from the back of her shelf and said, "I forgot I even had this one. I haven't touched it in years." She wound up the back of the doll, and we heard a click and the sound of the song we had heard last night. Our moment of relief that the music box actually existed was short-lived, as we soon remembered that click at the beginning meant it would have had to have been wound up before it started playing. If it had gotten stuck years ago when our cousin last played it, and it was maybe jiggled loose by the thunder from the storm, there would not have been the initial click that happened right after the wind-up. Something or someone played that music box from the start that night, and we still have no idea how. This is one of only 2 times I've had something paranormal happen to me that I haven't been able to explain away. The first time was when I was 4, so maybe less reliable, but I was 16 at this time and had another witness. I suppose maybe my cousin had wound it up years ago and it didn't play, and the thunder shook it loose from the starting position, but there were plenty of storms to shake it loose in those years, and none of them did. And why did it have to be the forgotten, dusty porcelain face doll music box out of all the less creepy jewelry box and snow globe ones? I wish I had a picture to share of the doll, but this was years ago, and I'm not sure if my cousin still has it. I'll take a look next time we visit. Thanks for reading. Love you guys in the show and all the other Freaky Friday stories people send in.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if you've got that doll, go throw it in the lake. Get rid of it immediately. Burn it.
You smash it, burn the pieces, and throw that in the lake.
Yeah. And then you got to smash the porcelain into a million pieces. And
Fine
honestly,
powder.
I would distribute it around the globe. Every time you go somewhere, just sprinkle a little bit. So if it tries to come back together, it's harder.
Exactly. It would have to take several connecting flights to come back together. And that's just, it's going to be like, man, fuck it. I'll just stay here in the lake.
I love that
my
this
God.
is such a sister thing to do.
I know, right? Well,
Sister thing to do.
can I just say, like, hard relay? I love my sister very much, but the absolute picture of Shannon jumping up and being like, bye. And me being like, wait for me.
Wait, you're betraying me.
Shannon left me with a ghost. She was like, should have run faster. You know what? She made me strong.
There you go. Made you the person you are today. And
Yeah.
I love that even at 16 and 19, they're like, Mom!
Yeah, exactly.
We gotta go. And slept on her floor.
Yeah, can we sleep on the floor? Yeah, I guess. You're not sleeping in this bed. Get you a pillow. Lay on the ground.
That's terrifying, though.
Yeah, of course.
Weird music in the night is any kind of like, ding, 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 ding.
Killing songs.
Yeah, that I've got a music box within arm's reach of me. And if it just started playing right now, I'm done. So I just get up and walk. You just see me leave the screen.
Great. One more thing for me to be afraid of when I go in your studio. Fantastic. Love it.
It hasn't. I'm just saying if it did start playing.
It hasn't played on its own late at night yet. I'm like, oh, cool. So now every time I go to the bathroom when it's late at night and I look at it, I'm like, and yes, I'm over there that often for this to be a concern. People are like, how often are you at her house? Like 4 times a week. So much. So often.
And the bathroom that is used most often is the one in the studio. So you kind of got to walk in here a lot.
Right by it. But yeah, like, of course, as Joy said, it would be the dusty doll-shaped music box with the porcelain fucking face. Well, as long as I don't see a porcelain face in your office, I guess I'll be.
No, it's a doll. It was an actual doll.
The actual doll, but it's like plays the music like a music box. Like it has, that's what the sound's coming from, is a fucking whole dusty doll with a porcelain face. Like, God, no.
She was like, oh, sisters are talking? I used to have a sister before I killed her.
Do you want to be my new sister?
I hate it. I hate dolls.
Down. What if Joy calls her cousin and is like, hey, do you still have that doll? And they're like, yeah. Actually, my kid loves playing with it, and it says it talks to them. It's
and
like,
you're like,
so
your
funny.
kid? Do you mean Damien? Yeah, Damien. That's the one. He loves playing with it. He still goes through his all black phase. Yeah, all black. We can't. He doesn't want to wear anything else.
He loves carving numbers. It's only 6s, and it's usually just 3 of them. But he's really good at his numbers. We're proud of him.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah. Also, I don't know how, but he learned Latin. He's only 6, but my God, he's fluent.
How impressive he is. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Joy. Sinisterhood will be right back. You know that feeling you get when you finally find like that thing you've been searching for on the internet? You've been reading thousands of reviews like, oh, I need to buy a children's book about dinosaurs and I'm going to read 37,000 reviews. I'm talking about you.
Yeah, that's me.
Talking about you.
That is me. I would love an app like ZocDoc for everything in my life where I could just go to it put in some information, and then it just spits out what I need. That would simplify everything.
And you don't have it for everything, but you at least have it for doctors with ZocDoc.
Yes. So why is it that you can get the most random, wonderfully reviewed thing from around the world in just a couple of days, but if you want to see a good doctor, it takes forever to get an appointment? Not to mention, how do you even know if they're good? Thankfully, there is a way. It's called ZocDoc, a place to find and book great doctors who actually have amazing reviews, many with appointments available within 24 hours. That is groundbreaking.
Lightning fast. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists.
You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for.
I had to switch insurance because we got married, and then I switched back to a different one because it covered a different doctor, and snip, snap, snip, snap. I'm switching doctors, but that's what I love about ZocDoc, because as long as I can update my information, it helps me find what is in my network. And then on top of that, if I have to go to somebody new because network changes, I don't know who these randos are. And then find them, love them, book them right there on ZocDoc.
Personal assistant for you.
It really is. Go to ZocDoc.com/creepy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/creepy. ZocDoc.com/creepy. Yes, thank you, Joy. Speaking of a joy.
So much joy.
It was a joy to talk to these next two ladies, Jeri and Ciara, co-hosts of Ladies and Tangents. They're family by chance, codependent co-hosts by choice. They're cousins, best friends, and they've spent 30 years in comedic conversation, and boy, does it show.
Oh, it shows. And they took the comedic conversation on the air in 2019 when they started their podcast, Ladies and Tangents. If you've seen them, you've probably seen them on TikTok. Their viral clips blew up in 2021, and they got like 1 million followers in like 10 months. And that was when we first started hearing about them, following them, watching them on TikTok, and then having you all as our listeners saying, you have got to talk to these ladies. They're so funny. They talk about all the stuff you want to talk about, which... yeah, accurate. And we love them. And you guys were right. So thank you.
Now we're on a text thread with them. So
no, we are. But in fact, you guys were so right that you're going to hear it just is going to start. So jump on board. Like 10 minutes in, we'll finally introduce them. But we got so excited talking. I just hit record.
We've been talking too for probably 10 or 15 minutes before you hit record. But we were having so much fun that we're like, this is funny. So
just leave it.
Yeah, just leave it. So yeah, it's going to jump right in. But just jump right in with us, and then you'll get to enjoy their stories.
Absolutely. And they're going to tell us a couple of stories, so freaky stories, paranormal stories, as well as stories from their life. One of the stories does have a mention of pregnancy loss, so just a content warning on that. And it's like I said, it just starts. We don't even say, hey, it's Heather and Christy, and we're here with Jeri and Ciara. We were just da-da-da-da-da. And I just thought, if I don't hit go now, I'm never going to hit it. So I just hit go, and that's when it starts. So enjoy, and thank you to Jeri and Ciara for hanging out with us.
Thanks so much.
Wait, are you saying that about you or us? Because we get that as well.
Yes. People like to say that about us.
Certainly.
Yes. Like, one of our favorite complaints was early on, this man tweeted, he was like, they just talk too much. And we're like, in a podcast?
Yeah. I was like, too many words.
That's what we're supposed to do.
He's like, I would have rather music. It's like, then turn music on.
Wait until you find out how wet water is.
Yeah, let me just tell you. I have some bad news, buddy. That sand dry as fuck. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, but people are going to love this.
Oh, I'm excited. Everybody's told us we need to hang out with you, so here we are hanging out.
Yes.
I will tell you, I knew very early on, before we even started podcasting, because I listened to your podcast back in like 2019.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
And
That's awesome.
I just randomly clicked on one day because 2019 was a rough year for me, honestly.
That's why we started it. I couldn't get her out of the house.
No,
like, if I create a job for you, then maybe you'll get up.
I was in a real depression pit. And so I was like,
and then 2020 hit, and I bet you just really found yourself.
Honestly, it was awesome. It was like, well, I'm not getting out of the house, but also I'm not supposed to.
Now I have an excuse. Yeah. For like
gone.
6 months, I was like, this isn't bad. I'm fine. I honestly didn't want to see a bunch of people anymore.
If you were like
right now
in a depressive funk on the couch, and you're like, I'm not leaving the house. They're like, oh, because you care about, the pandemic. You're like, yeah. Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm doing.
I'm very cautious, but it's like you can also be cautious. But
Yes.
well, yeah.
But the first episode I listened to that I just randomly clicked on, I can't remember which one. And honestly, again, it might be a fever dream that I had, so correct me if I'm wrong. But somebody was telling a story about shitting in a parking lot.
That was me.
Hey,
I knew it.
That
We
was me.
do have a lot in common.
And
As soon as I heard that, I was like, these are my people. These
Yeah. That was episode 13.
Yes.
About the Ben McDaniel, the
Cave diving
guy.
Oh, I know. That did make me spiral. I'm not going to lie to you. That part of it, I was kind of like spiraling.
Diving stuff
my
is-
worst fear. But
Diving stuff's crazy. We watched The Deepest Breath the other day, and that was a lot
On
too.
Netflix,
Ocean stuff, you know.
get into
I don't
it,
want to
man.
know
I don't
about
think we need to
space.
be there
I don't want to
anymore.
know about
Space
the
and
deep
ocean,
ocean.
They're
Yeah.
the same. One's up, one's down.
Mysteries.
But yes, I did have an incident in my car in an Albertsons parking lot, and all
No
I
judgment
had
from me.
was
Yeah.
At the
an In-N-Out
local
bag
at the
that I had
local.
recently eaten the burgers out of. So it was in and then it was out right into
Yeah,
that
just
bag.
like they
and
say.
It was awful. And people, that is my legacy. I've come to terms with it. It doesn't matter what I do in life. That is what I'm going to be known for. And one day my children are going to have the
Such a
blessing
good-
of listening to that story.
Because that was when
Experiencing it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, been there, mom. The first, when you told it, that was the first time I'd ever heard it. So
Yeah.
my reaction was genuine because I was like, I can't believe you're saying this. And that's why I said, just tell me and you. Nobody else will hear.
Yeah. That was
Nobody's
also
listening right now.
Nobody's listening.
episode 13. That was very early
It was
on.
like the first one. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah. Now, more people have heard it than I thought would.
A few.
I
Just
will
remember-
say that that's probably one of our biggest legacies as well. We've told many pooping ourselves stories, and we've got things hung up in our bathroom that listeners gave us that are like, it's been blank days since Jeri or Ciara shit
Nice.
themselves.
No.
I saw one of y'all's TikToks where I think it was you, Ciara, was talking about like farting during sex or something.
Yes.
And that one was really fun. And I was like, hard relate.
Yeah, right,
Who
accurate.
hasn't been there?
The one- dude, I have a very distinct memory of hooking up with this guy. It was Thanksgiving. Like
Love
I
that.
was done with my family and left, and he was like, "Hey, you want?" It was like a booty call, and I was like, "Okay." And then I was like, "The challenge of this is
Oh, you had Thanksgiving feasts.
my
You
dogs."
went to
I
go
was
and fuck.
face down, ass up, like just being like, "God, Jesus, take the wheel." It was.
Caught
It
you
worked
feeling
out.
grateful.
It
worked out.
Playing with fire.
I was playing with fire, both in the relationship and internally, but it worked out. Would not recommend because I was like, I'll be right back. I have to go to the bathroom because it's
feast
gravity.
or
I turned and it
famine,
was
Heather, not feast or fuck.
no feast or fuck. Feast then fuck. Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, you can't.
Absolutely not.
No, you can't.
Oh,
I'll tell
well,
you,
I'm-
I got my vindication like 15 years after my first incident. The restaurant that my high school boyfriend and I went to before homecoming just shut down recently. They just closed.
That
Wow,
it made
okay.
you poop
And I
yourself?
was like,
Yeah,
yes,
shit my pants.
because I went to homecoming and shit myself before the dance started.
No.
And I didn't go home. And I didn't tell anybody. I just emptied it. And then I did my best. Everyone's like, didn't you throw them away? No, because I was convinced that they
Somebody
were going to
would find
run
it.
like a DNA test
Yeah,
and
they
find
find
out
you.
that was my
They're gonna
underwear.
track you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like hold it up at the dance like it was a car key that they had found.
They're like,
yeah.
who has the
Or
blue floral?
You get crowned.
Shut up, they
but
were
homecoming
something
queen.
much different.
Or they
We're
do.
blue.
They're like, we're gonna crown the homecoming king, the homecoming queen. We have a third announcement. The owner of these, please. Or we called in the CSI team. We know who this
they're
is.
here. We
Jerry,
know
please
it's
come to the front. Jerry.
God,
You're
that's
like,
you to come get your
mortifying.
drawers.
And you're
What
like, why do you
restaurant?
guys have a
What
crown?
kind of food was it? Was it Mexican?
Nope.
Italian.
Italian.
Oh,
That was my
yeah,
guess.
that was gonna be
something
my next
heavy,
guess.
cheesy.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot
My
of
boy,
carbs.
he was like
carby.
my boyfriend. We had been dating for 3 days at the time. Okay.
Wow.
And
New
he
love.
drove me to the top of the city, this really big hill where you could see all the lights. And he takes me up there, and I'm like, very good. I have to pee. Please turn this car around. And so he takes me to the speedway, and I sprint in and just in that toilet, blow it up, do my best work. I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah.
And then I go back into
As
the car.
you do. It
Yeah.
always tricks you. You're like,
Yeah, you're
great,
like, oh, we're good.
I am golden.
There's always like a straggler.
This
Yeah,
does feel like a
that's the
true
thing.
crime story, honestly. It's like, here's a crime to humanity. But I said, let's just drive. Don't take me back up that hill. I swear to God, I can't do hills right now. Just take me to the school, and then we'll wait for the doors to open. And we were sitting in the car, and a friend of mine was coming up to the door. Perfect timing, because as I rolled down the window, some escaped me, and it smelled horrible.
Oh no.
And she was like, "What does that smell?" And I go, "I think it's outside. I just only started smelling it like when I opened the window."
You're like,
That's
the
gross.
smell came when the window rolled down, right? So it must be
Yes.
outside.
That's
Gosh.
weird. Somebody should check the sewage at the school.
Did you get busted? Did they?
And I
find-
said, "Oh my God, I have to pee again." And he's like, "Again?" I go, "I had so much water at dinner."
He said, "You haven't had a drop today." You're like, "Don't fucking judge me. You don't know me."
I've been monitoring
dated 3
your water intake.
Yeah, you're not
I've been
due
drinking
for another
water.
pee for 20 minutes.
Gaslight
Well,
me.
I walk in the building, and there's like two options to get to the bathroom. You can walk down this really long hallway, or you have to go up a set of stairs, across, then down the set of stairs. Well, that was my only option because the doors were closed and locked, and I'm just standing there holding them like, "Oh my God, oh my God." So I walk up the stairs, and my ass is clenched.
Oh,
So
Like a
hard.
diamond. It's making a
And
diamond.
the way that I'm walking, my feet are barely moving. I was like a Barbie.
like
before
you're,
Barbie?
yeah, you have
Yes.
a full corset
Jerry, are
on.
you shimmering? You're shimmying? Yes, I'm shimmying. This is everybody
Everybody
does
please
it
don't
now.
talk to me.
I
Please
shimmy.
don't look at me. Please
Yeah.
don't get too close.
No.
And
Nobody
I'm also
start a
shimmering
combo.
because I am sweating.
Yes,
so
I'm
Yeah.
drenched in sweat. Yes, I'm shimmering and shimmying both.
I could literally see the bathroom door when my
Oh.
body just started evacuating everything
It
inside
said
of
no.
it. And I was like, oh my God.
Did you have on like hose, like
Nope,
pantyhose? Did you have? Was it a short skirt, short dress?
Knee length.
Okay.
Knee length.
did I wear that dress later?
You did.
I did. I got the shit hand-me-down dress.
Hey, as you always did.
I did.
You're like, hey, this is a hand-me-down dress. It kind of smells. And Jerry's like, the smell's coming from the outside. I don't know. And then having to do with the dress.
The
You have
sewage
to
in the
have your own
schools, I've been telling you.
Yeah.
We gotta blow the whistle on this.
I didn't even
Damn.
go home till the next day. I stayed at a friend's house.
Oh,
Wow.
what a night.
But could it be smelled during
Yes.
the dance?
Sure could. Sure could.
He's like, Mambo number 5.
100%.
Wow. Did he ever comment
what
on
the
it?
fuck smells? What's that?
Did he comment on it?
No, but I did catch him sniffing himself.
Oh,
So it was like an
fuck.
accidental gaslight. I didn't tell him that it was him, but
But he thought it, and I wasn't going to correct him.
Yeah, no.
You just stand next to him like,
the amount
But
of
if-
confidence on my face, you'd never know it was me.
I
I was just
am
like,
what are you
so
talking
impressed that you were able to maintain for an entire homecoming.
if I'm not mistaken, Jerry, did you not win best bullshitter in high school?
I did.
She
I
did.
Well,
She
best
did.
shitter
And there's
and
a
best
reason.
bullshitter.
And
Shitter
I
and
forged
bullshitter.
those votes,
See?
which means I earned it even more.
Yes. Officially earned best
I,
Yeah.
to this day, feel like I was robbed of funniest or most talented. So if I could go back, I'd forge some votes. On that.
Best bullshitter.
Same.
That's brilliant.
I deserved it, and
Yeah.
it was a sham that I didn't get it.
I got funniest, and the funniest guy dressed up in a 3-piece 80s suit with like a ruffled thing, and I forgot we were taking pictures. So I had a t-shirt and a hoodie on, and I was like, I guess we got to go take these pictures. And he goes, "That's hilarious that you dress so bad," and I'm in a suit, and I was like, "Yeah, that's why I wore it. It wasn't just the clothes I wear." I was like, "It's great."
That's me. I'm so funny. That's what I do.
Call me Chuckles.
Funniest and saddest.
The tears of the clown. Oh man. Well, welcome to the show. We've already been going on a tangent for 10 minutes, but in case anybody does not know who we're talking to, it is Jeri and Ciara from the wonderful Ladies and Tangents. You've probably seen them on TikTok. Hopefully you've heard them on your podcast. They're the best friends that you think like, I wish I could have these best friends. But when you're in our ears, you feel like you are our best friends for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
We
the
already
hope.
feel
And I mean,
like we're friends.
Yeah, already.
Yes.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
it was just like divine intervention, I guess, kind of a horrible, wonderful coincidence that when we created the podcast in October of 2019, that was our first episode.
Mm-hmm.
we created the name Ladies and Tangents because I want people to know that we're women who are speaking and that we cannot stay on topic. And if those are two things that you don't like, do not listen here.
No, there's the door.
Find your way out.
And the point, they're like, Ciara said, what do you want our focus to be? Like, do you want to do true crime? Do you want to do history? Do you want to do comedy? And I said, I don't want to do any of it.
And
I
also
do
all of it.
all of it.
Yeah.
And so
Whatever
I
I
said,
want.
I just want people to feel like they can have friendship without having to leave their house. And
I
then
love that.
people physically weren't allowed to
Community.
leave their house
Yeah.
in 2020.
Yeah.
So
You're
we
like,
did take
did
a
you
little bit of
manifest the
responsibility
pandemic?
for
Is that what you're
You might
saying?
have accidentally done that.
So Jeri's a
Mentally.
witch. You guys, Jeri's the witch. We learned.
Well, so Ciara and I are cousins, and we
Yes.
are born 9 days apart.
Wow.
Love it.
And we were told by one of our late aunts that
We are
apparently there is witchery
in
our family.
brewing in here.
Nice. I
So-
like to fancy myself a witch.
Christy does.
So
I think
we
she's
all
very
witches
powerful.
together.
Well,
Yes.
I heard that there's a coven.
Yes,
and we'd
you're
like
getting
to
in
be
the
a part
coven.
of
We
it.
will
Yeah.
add you
You're
to
coming in
it
the coven.
Heck
post
yeah.
haste. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Post haste.
I love that, though, that you're like-
back.
We got to bring back post haste. There's a lot of words we're also trying to bring back. We're sprung is one of them.
Yeah, I'm
Post
trying to
haste.
bring
Sprung.
back a bunch of like
The memo. I'm talking about the memo. a lot.
90s to early 2000s slang.
She's
What I'm
like,
trying to bring back.
showed up and we didn't know, like, we kind of were red and black, and she's like, oh, we kind of match. I was like, I guess you got the memo. I was like, we're doing memos again.
We're doing
We're bringing
memos.
back. We're bringing back memos.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Well, and that's what I love about you saying that you want to say outright, we are ladies and we're going on tangents. If you don't like it, leave. I love that concept with content creation because I think the space gets kind of crowded and there's a lot of
Yeah.
people trying to do different things. And there's something to be said about saying, it's okay if you don't like this. There's other stuff. You can go away. This is what we're doing.
There's
Yes.
millions of podcasts.
There's a million people you can look at. And what I
Yes.
think you get from that is what you all have had, which is great success because you knew kind of from the beginning, we want to do what we want to do, which is still something to do. And
Right.
then people have been really attracted to that. So how was it to like, I know you started in 2019, you kind of popped off on TikTok. What was like, do you remember the video that was the first one that went viral? And what was like your reaction?
So
Oh, it
we
was-
didn't start doing video until the end of 2020. We decided we were going to do video because I was a wedding photographer. I was a high school special education teacher for 5 years. Left that when I started a photography business, and so I already had all of the equipment. And my husband is a sound engineer, so
Oh, nice.
we were basically set up for success in a way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we obviously have known each other since the day she was born,
Mhm.
and we've always found ourselves in these conversations where we're like, we think we're funny. I don't know. Maybe other people. I don't know.
Very funny.
But there was so much of myself that I just wanted to explore, and she wanted to get out of bed and
I
wanted
did,
a
and I
purpose
needed to.
outside of
Yeah.
being a mom and
Yeah.
working. But we were so self-conscious. And so we just started audio only. And I remember, I think it was in this first or second episode, we were like, would you guys ever want to see us? And then we were like, actually,
You
don't answer that
wouldn't. You
question.
shouldn't.
Never mind. And so at the end of 2020, we were getting like 200 downloads an episode. And it was a commitment that we had made to each other. Like, we were never going to let the other one down. We'd let ourselves down every day.
100%.
Same.
Anytime
Yeah.
I can, I'll let myself down.
Yeah, I quit on myself all the time, but I don't like to quit on her.
Yes,
I'm like, I told Christy I'd do it. I better do it.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so at the end of 2020, it was getting really, really difficult for us to keep going. And we said, all right, let's just start doing video and
Just give it one more last hurrah.
Mhm.
see if that
And I
takes
was
off.
really big into TikTok when 2020 happened. I was like, I felt like the old mom on TikTok. 'Cause that was still back when it was a very Gen Z area.
Yes,
and I was
yeah.
like, but I don't know. Maybe I like videos. And
Mhm.
I remember telling her at one point, I was like, I feel like we could put things like this on
Mhm.
TikTok. And it
Uh-huh.
the algorithm with TikTok works so much better than Facebook and Instagram to
Mhm.
get to the people you want it to get to.
Mhm.
And we just did it as like a funny, let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
it kind of started taking off immediately.
if you like 60 seconds of what we're saying, then maybe you'll give 60 minutes of it a chance.
Right. Yeah.
And because I have a lot of stories about me shitting myself at homecoming or pooping in a closet in my house because the people were working upstairs and I had a baby and couldn't leave,
yeah.
or when someone asked me if I had a fire crotch at basketball. I think that was the video.
That was the video that went viral.
Basketball
Was her
fire
fire crotch.
Wow.
It got millions of views, and I was like, okay.
And that's when, of course, you're like, of course it's that one.
Yeah. It's like, of course it's
like you said.
me shitting in an In-N-Out bag that's going
Yeah.
to shoot a skyrocket us in the face.
But I truly think, though, those are the stories that other people hear.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm not the only one.
And
Yes.
most people don't talk about these things, but we are
Right.
allowed to.
You know
and
what?
I'm glad someone is.
I said, whatever you hate yourself for in the dark, I want to flip the light on and show you that there's 100 other people in the room with you.
Let me, just for a moment, if I may blow a little smoke up your ass, because I love what you do and I think it's great. But what you just said is so important as far as nonfiction creative content, where you're taking a very true, real personal story that really did happen to you. And I think it was like Ralph Waldo Emerson that described the greatest writers as speaking aloud man's whispers inside. And I think that's what great content does. And I think that's why a story like that, because anytime you tell a story like that, oh, this doctor, I have a giant Abraham Lincoln tattoo on my side.
Hell yeah.
And I was at the gyno and it was a male gynecologist and he was like, oh, I see Abe didn't trim his beard.
You're joking.
Regarding my pubic hair. And I was just forced to just like lay back on the thing because he saw my tattoo when he had walked in and was like, oh, Abe tattoo. And then I was like, oh, I want to talk about my tattoos. And then he was like, speculum inserted and was like,
absolutely not.
No.
I'm in shock about that.
Yeah.
But-
like what you literally can't leave.
right?
No,
like
literally.
I was like,
thing shoved up your cooch.
He's like, let me
cannot
just
walk.
I was like, well, just scrape what you got to scrape, I guess, and I'll go. But
This will be the last time I see you, sir.
Yeah.
right?
For
But
sure.
like, because we're, we have this platform, we feel like we have the support of a best friend, somebody that loves us, that you feel like you can take these private indignations and say them publicly, knowing that you absolutely are not the only person that happened to.
Yes.
So that's
You'll
wonderful.
I think people connect with vulnerability.
Absolutely.
We get emails, DMs all the time of like, even though that was like, what, 2018 that I told that story,
Mhm.
even now people are like, I thought that I was the only person that just shit my pants. And I was like,
Don't.
I promise
It
you
ain't
that everybody has.
At least
because,
one.
Many.
literally everyone in the world has shit their pants. And
I
you
don't
can't
trust
convince me
someone who
otherwise.
says they haven't.
Yeah, they're lying.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
You're either a liar or you don't have a butthole. One of those two things.
Which, if you don't have a butthole, then that's separate. Then there you go.
that's a separate
My godmother, she had like a bag and talked about smells for fun. She'd be like, "Hey, I have to tell you something. Come over here." And then she'd be like, and I was like, "Oh my god, yeah!" And she's like,
Man,
"I gotta
you've been
burp my
through
bag, dude." I love her. Man. She was a bad bitch. Whatever. She was a redheaded bad bitch. I love her.
yeah.
Lillian, rest in peace. Rest in peace. She was funny.
What
She's
do
the first person.
is that a thing you really have to do to a
Mhm.
colostomy
Yeah, you
bag?
have to like let the air out,
Like
and
a
it's like
baby.
yeah, it was like a normal part of life and stuff. But she was
Let the air
funny. She was funny and had a little sense of humor.
Did it stink when you
Oh,
did it?
yeah,
So it was
like-
like a fart.
Yeah, it's like
Wow. So you still have to fart even when
In
you
theory,
got a colostomy bag.
Yeah.
In a bag.
yeah.
Interesting.
Kind of nice
man,
that
I
you
love
can control it a little bit.
She did. Yeah. In
I
fact,
don't.
yeah. No.
My husband looks at me so weird when we're at the grocery store and I just like
Just
am
rip
farting.
it.
And I'm like, what's someone gonna do? Say something to me?
Say something to me.
I'm actually at the Safeway and a woman has been farting in aisle 6. Could you send an officer right away?
Yeah.
Right? Sorry.
Do you
I'm
want me
not
to have
going
a
make
stomachache
myself
or do you want to be
uncomfortable.
embarrassed for 30 seconds? Yeah. I'm
No.
like, I'd rather just be
like-
embarrassed for 30 seconds, not have a tummy ache all day.
No.
I don't have a
No.
microphone up to my ass, so it's
No.
not like it's gonna go over the
You're like,
loudspeaker.
Attention aisle 7.
You're supposed to be 6 feet from me anyway.
That's true.
My
yeah,
bubble.
That's on you.
If you can smell my fart, you are too close.
That's what I always
Put
say.
that on the back of a t-shirt.
It's like a bumper sticker. You can read this. If you can smell my ass, you're too close. Get away.
Take 6 feet back.
What a number of tangents we've already been
I
on.
know.
This is a hoot.
Yeah.
But it is Freaky Friday. So has any freaky tangents ever happened to you? Or freaky stories
Yes.
involving shitting your pants or not?
well, involving shitting ourselves.
I don't think I've had any
No,
scary
no, you don't have to. No,
I was
we're
like,
good on
do
that.
we?
No,
we're
scary poop.
But we do have scary.
I wanna
and
hear it.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
yeah. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Mine involves children, which I think is also like one of the scariest things. Ghosty
Yeah.
children things. So
Oh yeah,
yes.
creepy
So-
children laughing and shit.
Okay, so for context, I've had paranormal things kind of happening to me for a long time. Like in my older house where my childhood home, I remember at one point I was walking down the hallway and my bedroom was like a walk-in closet. Basically, it was very small. So it could fit like literally my twin bed, my dresser, my TV was on top of that. And so when you immediately opened the door, you could see straight into the TV reflection. And I remember opening the door a crack. It was pitch black in my room and I see someone in the TV. I think it's my sister. So I open the door to like scare her and nobody is sitting on my bed. Oh. But there was like a person like hunched over in the So I know. Once I moved out, I got pregnant young with my son, Noah. I was 20 when I had him.
Which I predicted, by the way.
She did, yes. She predicted both of my pregnancies. But that's another story. So I thought once I moved out that it had kind of left me. It wasn't following me. I didn't really have any kind of paranormal experiences at my house. And then we moved into an apartment once I split up with his dad. And Noah was probably around like 12 months to 18 months when we split up. And it was just the two of us in this apartment. And back then, this was 2013, I didn't have a lot of money, so the baby monitor I had was just the one that like there was no video, you know what I mean? It was just you could see the little things when it was lighting up, so I would turn it up then and be
like one of those things in a truck.
When like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah. Mom, bring me some milk.
Mom, I need my ass changed.
Over. Seriously. And so like he was such a good sleeper, not like my daughter, but is another story. I would put him in his crib and just let him kind of like talk himself to sleep. He would just play in his crib and then he would fall asleep. I was like, great. But I would turn on the thing just at like a lower level so that I could make sure that nothing was, because sometimes he would get his fucking arm stuck through the bars. Why do babies do that?
And their feet and your God.
Oh my God. And then he would scream and I'm like, get your head out of the crib bar.
You did that.
Yes. You're going to suffocate yourself.
Truly. So I see like big spikes on the thing saying like there's a lot of noise happening and it's late. So I turn it up and I can hear him giggling, like laughing to himself. And he's baby talking. And then he keeps saying, Debbie. And I was like, who the fuck is Debbie?
Get out of here, Debbie.
We don't know anybody named Debbie. I don't know where that, but like he's giggling and having baby talk with this Debbie. So I immediately turned it all the way down. I was like, that's not for me to hear.
That's Debbie's business. You didn't go in there. You're like, he sounds happy. So,
she sounds nice. So I'm gonna
he's not afraid. So he's fine. Maybe that's his imagination. I've never had a kid before.
Who knows? They each get a person that's invisible to visit them. That's fine. His is Debbie.
That's how it works. I don't know. Nurse. Harry night nurse Debbie.
You're like, how hair? Debbie, how much do you do? What all do you take care of? And how can I sleep? What's the deal on this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I could have had a ghost taking care of him in the night, I would have been fine.
Her mic fell down and Debbie was like, bitch, knock the mic out of your hand.
That was so scary. Yes. Okay. So I'm thinking that's a one-time thing. I'll never hear about this again. No big deal. Okay. Around that time, I start to potty train him. And I actually have this part on video somewhere. It's in the cloud because it was like 4 phones ago. But
yes.
As he's potty training and he goes to the bathroom, I'm like, yay. Then he starts talking about Debbie again, like full on. Yeah. And he's like saying it as like, I want to show Debbie. Like, and I'm like, who is Debbie? Because now I want to hurt myself. I guess I need to know. Who is Debbie? Where is she here? And he was like, she's Debbie right there. Points to the ceiling where we're sitting. And I'm like,
I've heard this verse so many times, and every time I'm like, Debbie, get out.
Get out, Debbie.
So I say, oh, okay, she's here. What does Debbie want? And he says, home. And I was like, what does that mean?
Debbie wants us out.
Or she's at home and she just wants to live there. Maybe she lived there before.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
That was what we thought initially.
Yes. But he like described her, and the way he described her, I was like, you've never seen anybody that looks the way you're describing. It was very, very bizarre. And there were other things that happened. Like at one point we pulled up to our apartment complex. It was nighttime. I worked at Texas Roadhouse at the time, so I would get off super late. Nice. Yes. And so he's like half asleep and he was like, I want to play with the little boy in the road. And it is pitch black. There's no one out there. And I was like,
nope.
I don't see anybody.
Noah can see things.
You're gonna have to ask Debbie.
It was
She's trying to set up a play date with y'all.
You're like, is that Debbie's son?
Debbie's like, I've been taking care of your son. So anyway, here's mine. I got ghost shit to do. I'm
Let's
gonna go.
swap a little.
Yeah.
Well, what did he say that Debbie looked like, and did he also describe the boy?
Well, so we saw a show before, and there was like an older Black woman on the TV, and he kept pointing and saying that was Debbie. And I was like, I don't know where you would have, like, I don't understand the correlation.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a relative or somebody that he
Like
would
a neighbor,
know.
a teacher, or something like that. Yeah.
The area that we live in is
Not very diverse.
Not at all.
Oh,
yeah.
So it
Ohio.
wouldn't be
It's very
Like
small
central,
town Ohio.
Central Ohio.
Yeah.
northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just like I don't know. But then we never heard about Debbie again, and I haven't asked him about it, and it's been
It's a don't ask, don't tell situation.
yes,
Oh.
except that now I
Yeah.
have a daughter. Okay, so my daughter, I had her 10 years after my son, and she at this point is in 19, like 20 months. Okay, and recently. In front of Jeri, even she said Debbie, and we were both like, "What did you just fucking say?" Like it was so bizarre.
And they live in a new build now.
Yeah.
She's moved.
Oh.
But this
So
is
did
the part
Debbie.
I didn't even tell Jeri this because it just happened, and I wanted to save it for this moment. The other day, it's nighttime, okay, and we have like a big mirror going into our bedroom, and I have Sawyer, my daughter, on my hip, and I'm walking to the bedroom, and normally she'll see herself in the mirror and she wants to like wave. We go past the mirror and she turns around, arms out, and goes, "Debbie!"
Don't go in the mirror.
Oh no!
Somebody come get Debbie.
I know.
Y'all need to
I was like,
call
Absolutely
Susan.
not. Absolutely not.
Somebody come get her. She's doing something sinister.
Wow.
That's our new theme song, by the way.
That's really good.
How and so can Sawyer and Noah communicate enough to like compare notes about Debbie?
Well, that's the creepy thing. So Noah at this point is 11, and I have asked him, and he's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
Really?
I
So
don't
he doesn't remember even doing
Nothing.
that. Mm.
Nope. He's heard
Wow.
stories, but
What
other
if
than
Debbie
that,
was on your bed?
She's been with you since you were a child.
That's what I'm wondering.
Maybe you're the conduit.
You were Debbie the whole time.
Debbie's yours.
honestly, yeah. Well, the thing is, too, I'm like, in my head, I'm wondering if she saw something in the mirror like behind us, or like
Yeah.
I don't want to think
Sure.
that that's it. or maybe she saw me holding her, and like maybe Debbie's like an ancestor. Maybe it's
Oh my god! What if it's like that
And
one movie where the it's like a ghost in there? It's like the pictures. Do you remember
Insidious.
this movie? No, because she's sitting on his shoulders at one point. He thinks he gets rid of the.
I thought it was Insidious at the
that
end.
does sound
Is
like
it?
Insidious,
Spoiler alert.
actually.
Who's
Yeah.
the guy?
I don't remember Insidious.
It's my husband would know, but I thought it was the guy that plays. Oh god damn! I'm sounding like my mother. The guy that plays Ed and Lorraine Warren, Patrick something or another.
Oh yeah.
That guy. Isn't it him? And they take his picture, and then they thought it was him. He was astral projecting. I think that's Insidious.
Yes, it is Insidious.
But yeah, that's fucked up. Some shit's like hiding over your shoulder. I don't like that.
It's So, anyways, that's my creepy kid story that I have.
Have you
about
ever
Debbie.
considered leaning into this?
I would love to. I'm so afraid because our sisters had like a moment with a Ouija board incident that I think opened something really scary for the both of them that has followed them. Like my sister has had some ghost things happen that were like scary ghosts. So like
Ooh.
yeah, and
That's
your
insane.
sister as well, correct? Has
Yeah.
had like evil things.
Yes.
So I'm so
And
afraid.
y'all's sisters were the ones that did the Ouija board together?
Yes, our sisters are also very close in age. So
Okay.
they've been best friends since they were little.
I
And-
love that y'all
That's so
like
cute.
are best friends with your cousins.
Yep.
I have cousins, but we didn't grow up together. And
Yeah.
Tommy grew up with one of his, and they were like best friends growing up. And I think that's such
I was
a
always
fun,
jealous.
special relationship.
Yeah,
I was
I
always
love
jealous
that.
too. Yeah.
I
was
didn't
so
know that
great.
it wasn't
normal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
my
yeah.
cousins are like my fam, like my
Yeah, yeah.
siblings.
It's like we
I love
are
it.
blood,
family.
we do share DNA.
Yeah, I mean, you are
But yeah,
blood
technically.
relatives.
But
Yeah.
my nieces are now growing up like that. They're cousins together, and they call each other sissy, and they're best friends, and they chase each other around. And I love to see y'all like as you see. I know that throughout the rest of their life, they're going to grow up and be besties, and then
Well,
have to tell,
And they're
hey,
not even blood related, and they
No,
treat,
not- yeah,
treat
they're
each
best
other
friends,
like
yeah.
family.
Oh, I love
So,
that.
But yeah, man, Debbie's not. She ain't backing down.
Man,
I know. But eventually I would like to have something, either like a reading or somebody trying to explain to me what's going on. Because I thought it was kind of a fluke, maybe. My son, it was like an imaginary friend situation. And now that it's also with my daughter, I'm like, that's
so weird. And Debbie is such a specific name too,
yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And
I'm like,
still
we don't
hear
know
often
anyone
either.
I don't know anyone named Debbie.
Yeah, I can't think. I know one person named Debbie.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
not
her.
anybody
She's
related
also
to.
alive.
I've
so
even
it's
tried
probably
to
not.
like think of names that sound like
Me
Debbie,
too.
like because you know, like kids will
Yeah.
say what, like you know, a kid tries to say truck and says fuck,
Yeah.
something like that.
Kitty,
Yeah.
man, I had a friend's kid was called Kitty's Titties and be like, I love titties. Titties are great. Titties,
Same. Gang, gang.
titties love milk. I was like, well, yeah, they do.
Kinda,
kinda.
yeah, they do.
There's titties
Let me
all
check
at the
your
pet
titties love
smart.
to
I was
be
like,
pet.
Gosh.
yeah.
My husband was getting ready to mow and he put on like really, really high socks. And my son ran in and he goes, Daddy has such big cocks.
You're like,
You're like,
I was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, multiple.
I was just
son.
listening, Jerry, to that episode. Was it you were talking about your therapist saying put it in the box?
Yep.
I got so tickled. Instead
Put it
of
in
like,
the box.
don't fight about it now, just put it in the box. It was like, I'll put it in your box. And then to have your therapist being like very serious, being like, why don't you put it in her box? Or you could put it in his box. I was
Don't
dying
put that
laughing.
in my box.
Don't put anything in my box.
Yeah, I don't want anything in my box right now.
Please no.
We're in therapy.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Wow, we have friends over at Creeps and Crimes that
Yes.
swear by a medium they use named Susan.
Taylor
who
Morgan can
do,
hook you up.
readings like over the phone or Zoom and stuff. So
Well, we're actually talking with that. What's really weird is something just happened over
that
here.
was
when you
really
said
weird.
that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what just moved, but something just moved over here. But also, we're actually meeting with
Doing
them
a
next
collab
week.
with them next week.
perfect.
Well,
Ask
let them know
about Susan.
Let them know you need Susan's
Yes.
information. Because we've had some
Susan.
listeners who, when we did a crossover, Susan was like, they reached out separately and said, oh, she was great. And she told me all this great stuff. So
Mhm.
highly recommended.
Susan is
also,
actually
they're
the-
so much fun to talk to.
Oh, such
You're
a
gonna
blast.
love them.
Oh, I can't wait. We already just from like DMing. I'm like, you
Oh.
seem like our
we
people.
we first like contacted one another a year ago.
Oh.
And both of us, when we came back to it, we were like, "Oh my god, that was a year!"
Like, I'm so sorry.
like a week
Sorry
ago.
about that.
I love it.
You're like, oh,
Tangents
sometimes
don't just apply on camera. We also have
No, it's
ADHD
off.
off.
Yeah. Same. So, Sinisterhood will be right back. Well, so Jerry, have you you had any encounters? Not with Debbie, but
Yeah. I've also been haunted, I guess, my whole life. Like I remember being in my childhood bedroom and I would hear someone walking all the time up the stairs, through the hallway. My sisters and I have all seen the same woman in my parents' bedroom.
Mm.
There was a woman in a white gown just standing in front of my mom's mirror. Like we all saw this person. There was just random things that happen in that house all the time. So I've always kind of been in tune and I was raised Catholic. So I was like, of course there's,
yeah.
now I just need to figure out the intention behind whatever I'm
Right.
doing.
Well, it's
because
clearly a demon, and I need Jesus to help me get rid of it.
I
Yes.
was
It's true.
so terrified of even saying the word demon because I thought it would like call upon something.
Use them.
But I'm really growing. I'm really healing, and I can say it now.
Congrats on your progress.
No. But there was one time where I was really, really scared that I was like, something was trying to possess me. So I was in college. My husband and I dated long distance for like 2.5 years. He was in Florida and I was here. And so we used to fall asleep on FaceTime. And so we would Skype and I fall asleep just anywhere, anytime, anyway. And
Truly.
I fell asleep on Skype. I knew this. And I had a horrible dream. And in this dream, I had like sleep paralysis. And I have had sleep paralysis several times, and they're always terrifying. Always terrifying. This time specifically, I remember opening my eyes and seeing myself on Skype.
Oh.
But the version of me that was on Skype wasn't me. Like I was laying down and the version of me that I was seeing in the video was just inching closer and closer to the screen. And do you remember that horror movie Smile?
Yeah.
That was the smile that her face had. And the movement that this face had was like moving really slow.
Like that
and, like,
jerky demon move.
And
yeah.
I just kept screaming like in my head because I couldn't move that I needed help. And when I finally was able to wake up and move, my computer was closed.
Shit, dude.
I do not remember closing it. I was like shocked that it was closed because I remembered having this dream thinking like, what closed my computer? And so I was speaking to my now husband and he goes, you just sat up and then closed it. Just like you didn't say anything. You just sat up.
Like you're like,
and closed it. Yeah.
He's like,
crazy.
well, good night, babe.
Yeah.
Yes, sweet dream.
I guess bye.
So I was like, am I possessed, or is like something trying to possess me? Like, and the sister that she had mentioned who did mess with the Ouija board was living with me at the time. And at the exact same time, the shelf in my room and the shelf in her room, which was right below mine, fell at the exact same time and made a huge, like, loud crashing sound. And so everyone was like, what the hell was that?
This was after you woke up from your nightmare Zoom.
This was around the same time. There was like a lot happening. My life, whenever I was in college, was really tumultuous. Like I was in an abusive relationship. My mom had been diagnosed with cancer, and there was just so many things that were happening that I think I made myself susceptible to spirit. And there was another time. It didn't happen for a long time, and then it happened again after I had my son. And I was laying in our current home. I was sleeping, and I heard footsteps. And I thought, oh, my husband just forgot something and he's coming back. You know those memes where it's like Sleeping Beauty, like my husband before he leaves for work, and she's like, that's me. So I thought, oh, he just left something. He's coming back. And I opened my eyes, and there is a woman standing in the door of my bedroom. And she's old. She's an old woman. And she smiles at me, and my son is crying. I can hear my son crying in the other room. And she just turns and she walks to him. And then I can see her on the baby monitor, and she's like reaching in the crib for him. And I am like freaking out because I can't move. And I'm watching this person go for my son. And I just had to tell myself like to close my eyes and wake up when I opened them again, that it would all be over. And it was eventually, but
when you're in those moments, it feels like it's like hours, even though it's maybe a minute or two that you're stuck like that. But
and it's real. It feels so real.
It's horrifying.
And I don't understand something on the baby monitor. No,
I don't understand why those, because it feels like it's connected to the technology too, because the other time that I experienced it was over Skype. And I know that like it's easier to have sleep paralysis when you're stressed, but I've not experienced fear like that awake. And I will say that day after that happened, Ciara came over to the house because we were doing podcasting stuff. She thought I was standing in the breezeway. And she thought it was weird that I was waiting for her out in the breezeway, and then she came in, and it wasn't me. It was.
She's like, "Who's that bitch out on your breezeway?"
I mean, it literally looked like someone in all white, and I was thinking, like,
so it's the woman from your childhood, your parents' bedroom.
When did your sisters curse you with this Ouija board exactly? What year? Exactly?
Let's just call it what it is.
Honestly, we need to have a talk
for this. Yeah, I think your sisters.
What year was this that it started? And then because
you were like the Paranormal Activity lady.
Yeah.
But both of you.
I know.
Your sisters, the whole family.
I have something to say about that.
Whenever we were talking about doing podcasting things, I was like, honestly, as fascinated as I am by like spooky paranormal, I feel like we can't, because I don't want to open that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and
it's too close to home.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend pass when we were in second grade. She had cerebral palsy, but she choked at a sleepover, and then she passed.
God.
So sorry.
Horrible. And I've always felt really close with her. And even as I grew up, like I always felt her around. And she was one of the reasons that I went into special education. When I was in college, before I moved into the house. I was living in the dorms, and a guy walked into the lounge that my friends and I were hanging out at, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Reggie. I'm actually a medium. Just wanted to come introduce myself." And I'm like, "Hey, Reggie, can I tell you about some things real quick?" Because right before that, I had a phone. It was like one of those LG chocolates.
Mm-hmm.
And the screen just like took a shit. It went completely black. I couldn't see it. The only way I knew I was talking to someone is because I did have T9 still on it. And so I was pressing all the buttons. And I'm like, I hope this is saying what I think it's saying. So my mom brought me a new phone. I put that old phone in a drawer. 2 weeks go by. I can't see the screen. So I don't know if it's on or not. But either way, 2 weeks is enough time for it to die if it wasn't already turned off. And I am going to enter my dorm room and I hear this vibrating. And I'm like, what is that? Is somebody getting a phone call? And I open my door and my phone is vibrating like I'm getting a phone call in the drawer. Someone was with me for this, which like, I don't know why I always have to preface it with like, there's other witnesses.
We believe you individually, but it does bolster your argument.
Yes,
for sure.
to have someone corroborate your story makes you feel validated too.
Because I felt nuts with all this stuff happening in childhood. People just being like, "Oh, kids tell stories," and I'm like, "Well, I'm a full ass adult now, so I mean, what's this about?"
And the story hasn't changed.
Not at all.
I had one of those iHomes as well. That you could like put your iPod on and it would be an alarm clock and a speaker. Mm-hmm. Well, I had one, wasn't plugged in, didn't have batteries in it, and it started going off like I had set an alarm on it.
Like the kind of alarm?
Yes.
Damn.
So, and again, people were in the room for this to happen. So like this spirit did not give a shit who heard it or whatever.
Bold. They wanted to be known.
And technology, more technology, the phone and the iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Damn. So Reggie tells me that there are two women around me, which I automatically think that it's both of my grandmas because our grandma's passed and so is my other one. And so he says, your grandma's messing with the technology.
She's like, what does this do?
She's trying to get your attention because you're about to do something that is bad for you and you need to knock it off. Aww. Right around that time, I was getting ready to leave college, move in with my boyfriend at the time, who was not
a good person.
I was going to like drop out of my teaching thing. Wow. So I was like, uh-oh, grandma's mad at me. You don't want that is not good business. And so the other one, I was like, oh, that must be my other grandma. And he goes, no, I'm seeing chocolate. I'm seeing gummy bears. I'm seeing popcorn. And I don't ever say names, but she says you'll know Emily. And I started crying and I walked out of the room.
That was the girl's name, your friend?
And that was my friend who passed.
Wow, that's incredible.
The boyfriend that I had at the time didn't even know about her. There's no way this guy would have known.
Like in college, you don't go around talking about it a lot in college.
No, it wasn't something she put on social media ever.
I didn't even have social media until I was in college.
Yeah. And Emily's a pretty, like Debbie, it's not a name everybody has. So to say that is pretty, it's a niche
He wasn't like, it's Ashley, Sarah,
or,
kind of
like
something that's a little bit more.
Elizabeth. Wow.
And just new
Emily
and chocolate and gummy bears.
My grandma. Whenever I visit my grandma, I visit Emily because their graves are next to each other.
Wow.
I bet they know each other. I always, when I go visit my dad's grave, like I'll pass by and this other family next to like the plot has a bench and it's like, it's their memorial bench, but you can sit there and I'm always like, hello, Lewiston family. Thank you so much for your bench. I hope you guys have been hanging out and getting along. I hope you have a lot in common. Because there's a novel called Lincoln in the Bardo that's by George Saunders. And it's about these spirits in a cemetery that are friends with each other, and it always just got in my head that I'm like, it's like a neighborhood. You're probably just
buddies, suburb. It's like a gated community.
Neighborhood.
Oh yeah, what if your grandma was like, Jerry's about to do something, and Emily's like, I'll go, I'll help. Let's go. What do you want me to do?
Exactly what it was, because there was a third person. He said the more I talk about this, the more I remember. So sorry that you're just getting this whole thing, but
I want to hear it.
He said there's a guy around you, and he took his own life. And he is around almost kind of like a spirit guide for you. He goes, he's related to you, but he's not related to you. And
distant relative.
Yeah. He said that he made a rash decision And obviously he couldn't take it back.
Yeah.
And he comes around when you are about to do something that is going to alter your life. And he said, it's like Ryan or Richard. And he goes, it just starts with an R. That's all I know. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you so much. And he's like, whatever. So I'm telling my mom this story because it was her mom that was, calling my cell phone in the drawer. And
did you pick the cell phone up when it was vibrating?
Yes.
Did anything happen?
Bold.
It continued to vibrate. I took the battery out of it because I wanted to
You didn't
stop.
answer it?
No.
Oh, damn.
At that point,
Hello,
I'm like,
Jerry.
it's haunted. It's whatever. I don't want to deal with this. So I tell my mom this story. I was like, yeah, there was grandma and there was Emily. And then he did say something about a guy who took his own life. It starts with an R or something. I don't know what that's about. And she got really quiet. And she said, my cousin Robbie had an affair and was afraid that his family wouldn't forgive him. And he took his own life.
Wow.
So I didn't know that had happened. But apparently he is around.
He's like still taking care of the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's sweet.
Did you end up leaving college or did you heed these warnings?
I stayed and I listened because at that point in time, Reggie was like, I want to talk to you more. And I was like, Reggie, I have a boyfriend.
Come on, wait a minute.
He's like,
he
that's
said
not what
he
this
was
is
like trying to
about.
practice
Okay.
and like strengthen his
Hone his abilities. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like ab workouts.
you gotta practice it.
For your,
You
you gotta
don't
strengthen your
use
core.
it, you lose
Spiritual
it.
core. Yeah.
You know?
Your spiritual core. And so he was like, don't tell me where your room is.
I'm just going to
I'm
find
going to try
you.
and find it. And I said, he goes,
this
I'm
is
just going
fun.
to try and find your energy. And I was like, well, my name is on the door. So that feels like, he goes, I'm going to close my eyes. Please don't let me run into anything.
I'm
And I'm
just
like,
gonna
okay.
feel my way around this
That's
door.
exactly what he did.
And then you have to explain to the RA who's like, Jerry, what's that guy
Man
doing?
with his eyes closed.
His arms out. He's got his arms out and his hands out.
He keeps
And he's
saying
walking
trying to
down the
find
college like,
someone's
I
room.
gotta get stronger. I need to get to
I'm just doing my spiritual workout. Luckily, the RA was my best friend. And
Oh,
so,
super
like,
great.
it didn't-
And you're like, oh, you're looking for Jerry's room? Yeah, I bet you are. It's fine.
All the weird shit goes
That makes
down
sense.
there.
That
The one
woman
where
in
everything's
white and that little girl.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for Jerry's room.
Well, he closes his eyes. He walks down the hall. And I'm not a skeptic. But at this point, I'm almost like trying to catch him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even though he's already way proved himself to me.
Mhm.
He passes my room and I'm like, idiot. And then he stops and he takes 2 or 3 steps backwards and slams his hand on the door. And he said, is this your room? And I said, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we open it and he steps into the room and he steps on my rug and he steps off and he steps on my rug and he steps off and he points and he goes, she plays right here. So my straightener would turn on and off. My makeup would look like it was being digged in.
I
I
heard
just heard
that.
that.
Dude, what
What
is
was
happening?
that?
I don't know. Something
I heard
over there
that one.
just again fell.
Like
Emily?
from the ceiling.
I don't
Emily wants to
normally
join.
get spooked because I am a bit of a
She's super
skeptic,
skeptic.
although something happened to me last night that I'll tell everyone later. Heather doesn't even know this, but I just got goosebumps.
I got goosebumps too when I heard that sound because you were
Well-
saying she played.
yeah.
She's like, I'm still playing. Boop,
He
knock
would
it down.
play in my makeup and then he goes, do you ever hear your name when you're sitting here? And I said, yeah, but I mean, it's a dorm and Jerry sounds like a lot of things.
Yeah,
And he
Jerry,
goes,
Larry, Mary, Sarah.
she jibber jabbers here. She just sits and talks and plays. And he started, again, he didn't know anything about her.
Mm-mm.
He just knew that he got her name right. And he started running his hand along the wall. He's like, do you hear this? And I said, yeah. And he said, she is using the wall to walk, which if she didn't have her crutch, that's what she would do
Oh
is she
my
would use the wall to help her
gosh.
walk. And he goes, but I want you to know that she can walk now and she doesn't need it. But
Oh.
she
have
knows
it
that
or-
that's how you'll recognize
Oh my
her.
god!
And she is with you all the time. And I
just heard
felt
another
her.
noise.
I heard a sound go off.
you did
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
like a chime. It went like dee dee
Oh.
dee.
a chime?
Or
Yeah.
like a
It
door
sounded-
opening, maybe alarm.
Some sound of electronic sound.
Yeah, I heard an electronic sound.
Maybe Nana's calling.
Oh my
Sorry
God.
we cursed y'all on y'all this.
No, I think just talking. I haven't talked about this in
I'm
a
sure
very
it gives
long
it a little
time.
energy.
It brings the energy back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
what a
so-
sweet person to be with you.
I know.
I know. Have you ever told her mom all of this?
I haven't, and I'm really
Hard.
scared to because her parents, I don't believe, are together anymore because obviously, like
Yeah,
after
that's
something
a lot
like that
to go through.
happens,
That's
that is a
toll.
lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if her mom knew if we were as close as we were, and so part of me feels like I don't know if it would be welcome or not, and that's just a scary thing to like assume that it would be received
Yeah.
well. And so like
Yeah.
I would love to because I have so many beautiful, wonderful stories with her, and I feel like she has been a part of a lot of my journey because I did stay in school and I met my husband that year. He lived on the same floor, just a couple doors down from Reggie. So
See, they all
and
knew.
then he left. He went to Florida right after that. So yeah.
That's amazing. Had you not stayed, you wouldn't have met him.
You would have met him.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't have been a teacher.
I wonder
and all
if,
that.
well, I mean, obviously anybody can listen to a show, so she could hear it, but I also wonder if she has similar experiences, or
Oh yeah.
maybe you could try and ask Emily, like, would you want me to tell your mom about this?
Ooh.
And then
Susan
maybe
can help
she
you.
has a
Yeah.
maybe like she has a message that's like, can
Yeah.
you tell my mom blah blah blah? or
Yeah,
something.
maybe.
Oh,
But
You're
that,
right. Though, it's
that
hard
is
to navigate.
heart wrenching. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we all have kids, so or Heather has nieces. Like, if anybody came to me and was like, after something like that, that would be really hard to hear.
Yeah, and especially you don't know people's like religious backgrounds if they
Yeah.
would be super offended by it or whatever.
Well, and we met in church. That was
Yeah.
how our friendship happened. Is her and I were in the same Sunday school together, and so we would like walk past each other when we were going to get communion, and we'd be like, "What's up?" Like I have,
What's up, fellow kids?
I have my mom gave me a book full of like photos of me growing up, and one of them was of me and her at like first communion, and so like. I know that her mom probably still believes because whenever I go and visit her grave, she's got like gum on it because she would get a lot of dry mouth. And so the gum would keep her saliva going. And so like they'd still do those little things for her. And so I believe that they would think so. But again, I don't know. I feel like I'd be coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, you don't want to be like,
Yeah.
by the way. But it is for them out there. Hopefully, they do know that she made a huge impact, and you know she was lost at a young age. She changed your life.
Yeah.
She changed the trajectory of your life. Certainly,
100%.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. And for someone so young to know that they left like such an impact, because when
legacy.
people are taken so young, yeah, you worry that like, well, they had their whole life, but she's still making such positive impacts from beyond the grave.
Playing with whatever toys are over there right now.
Yeah, apparently. It sounds like she's gonna get in the studio and start
Debbie,
playing with some stuff.
Emily,
Yeah.
Debbie, Emily, do they sound similar?
Debbie, Emily,
the Beverly.
Although
Debbie.
Emily is not a grown Black woman, so perhaps.
True.
Oh, that's true.
They're
Description wise,
different,
that might be different. But
And who knows? Honestly, he could have just been saying Debbie as like maybe it wasn't that character. Maybe it was a different character, and he just he was lagging on when he told me because he
was
just
just like,
pointed to like the TV show and
that.
said it. I was like, that must be
All right.
Wow.
So he was also
That's
two.
wild.
So
Yeah. Oh,
But they say children are closer to the veil because, you know, we don't,
honestly,
we're not jaded yet.
yes.
any of those
Yeah.
kids' stories of like, mommy, I saw a person. It's like, okay, well,
Well, that happened with my son too.
No.
So again, here's another dream. Here's me telling you 1,000 stories. But
No,
I had a dream where I had 2 miscarriages before I had my sons. And in this dream, I was breastfeeding 2 babies. I was in my childhood bedroom and I was breastfeeding 2 babies. And I looked up to talk to someone. And then when I looked back down, they were 2 puppies, which sounds, I don't know why that happened.
It's dream
But-
logic.
Then
Yeah.
I started crying and throwing all the blankets off of the bed because I'm like, where are my babies? Where are my babies? And I look up and there's a little blonde haired boy standing in the doorway. And I thought that's Jonah, which was my son that we lost. He had Down syndrome. He didn't make it past 16 weeks. And so I thought that's Jonah and he must be doing fine. And then I looked at my son, Ollie, And I'm like, oh my God, it was you. Like I saw you in my dream before I had you. Almost like I lost my 2 babies, but this one is coming.
He's
on the
waiting for
way.
you.
Yeah.
And my son, after I had Forrest, my youngest, he called me in his room and he said, Bubba's on the ceiling. Bubba's on the ceiling. And that's what he called his brother. He's like, Bubba's crawling on the ceiling. And I thought, oh, that's not of my business. The door, but I thought,
like, kind of, what in the train spotting is happening in here?
It's definitely not Forrest. He's in his crib. However,
for sure not on the ceiling.
I wonder if he was seeing
Someone that
Jonah,
looked
like
like-
my other,
a
our
baby.
other son. Yeah.
Yeah, just a baby and calling him Bubba. We call my Simon, our youngest, Bubba too, a lot.
Yeah. That's how Forrest
Oh,
introduces
wow.
himself now. He goes, I'm Bubba Forrest.
Well, they also call Simon Buddy.
Yeah.
And Christy Wallace, her husband's Brown, so the kid's last name is Wallace Brown. I'm like, Buddy Wallace Brown.
Yeah.
I was like, we're like, hell of a name.
He has to be
Buddy.
a county
Buddy.
judge. If he's not, then what is he even doing with his
We're
life?
like, he's old county judge. He's fair. He's tough, but he's fair. Buddy Wallace Brown. Put her there. I was like, his life is just
It's
I
Perfect.
love when
man.
It's
your
gonna be
country accent gets thicker.
Oh yeah,
really good.
Yeah.
gets turned up a little bit.
It gets turned up.
Yeah.
And we also call him BB for baby brother. And I'll be like, what's your name? And he's like, BB. I'm like, man, at some point he's going to say Simon. He's going to know
Learn
who he
something.
really is.
Eventually.
Until
It's
then.
giving him an identity crisis with all these nicknames.
What is my name? But
Yeah, I've had several mediums tell me that Ella has gifts.
Mhm.
And we say she's like Wednesday Addams and Stewie Griffin combined. So she's
What a
got some
combo.
stuff going
That's a
on.
good combo.
when I was buying a house, Ella was like 6 months old. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, no, she was right at a year old because she was crawling and stuff. And I was like, hey, I'm going to look at houses. Will you meet me? And she's like, yeah, I've got Ella with me. I'm like, totally. It's great. Plus the women at the witch store was like, she's very powerful. So I was like, bring her along. You never know. And one of the houses, it was an okay house. And Christy walked with Ella holding her to the back of the house. And Ella started screaming. And then they like walked back to the front and she stopped. And I was like, and then I walked back there and I was like, this feels oppressive and weird. So if Ella didn't like the house, I'd be like, I'm not interested. And then my real estate agent's like,
She was like
the baby
our
decides.
litmus
And this house,
test.
she crawled. She loved it. She crawled right down the hallway. She crawled into this room, which is now the studio. She crawled like into my office room and was having like a grand old time. And I was like, I'll take it. So that's how I bought my house. Was a 1-year-old baby told me that this
Like
is the non
sending a
I was
canary
like, she
into
is
the mines.
powerful. There's no
Ella-
flaw in that logic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she interprets what Simon is saying all the time. He can talk, but he'll say stuff, and I'll be like, "What?" And she's like, "He wants a bowl of ice cream." And I'm like, "Oh God!"
So like,
And I'm
oh,
like,
okay.
"Simon, do you want a bowl of ice cream?" Okay. I'm like, "What?"
You're like, did he really want a bowl of ice cream, or does everyone always want a bowl of ice
like,
cream?
what
And
is
you ask the
happening?
fair
Who
question.
really wants the ice cream here? But yeah, she.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's.
I love that
Kids
you're a
are
skeptic
fun.
and you birthed a powerful
Yeah.
being. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good
But
stuff.
also, I'm like a skeptic, but I also am not a skeptic. Like, I think something's going on in my current house. We moved about 6 months ago.
Did you
or
not
even.
consult Ella?
No,
Yeah.
she was there. She's fine with it, but
She's a little older now though, so maybe the veil is
yeah, I don't
before.
know. But yeah, weird things have started to happen. So, and last night there was a weird incident where I was cleaning up colored pencils on the table, and I saw a green pencil like to the left of the table, and then the next thing I knew, it was in the box, and I hadn't put it there.
like someone was helping you clean up.
Or like, yeah,
Time
it was
travel.
weird. And
fucking
so I went and woke up my husband, and he was just like,
You did wake up, Tommy.
he was reading.
Did
the-
you move this green pencil?
He,
You're like, I
when
need your help.
he's reading on his Kindle, if you disturb him, he has to like start his whole process over of falling asleep. So I was like, something just happened. He's like, what are you even talking about? And I was like trying to explain it. I was like, I don't even know what I'm saying. And then so I just was like, I guess I'll just go finish cleaning up. And then I just went back out there.
If
but
you have a spirit and it wants to help clean,
I'm fine with that.
leave it.
Yeah.
Leave
if
it in
you
the
like
house.
to.
When they're like, we have to go in and clean this house of spirits. Unless the spirit cleans, then let it ride. Just let her stay.
And you
Let it
are
ride.
welcome.
We just
Yeah,
want to
I
clean the dirty
love
spirits.
it.
The clean spirits can clean.
Exactly.
Continue
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I'm saying. Oh my gosh, we've had so much fun talking to you today. We could
yes.
talk to you for another hour, 2 hours, 5 hours. So anytime, the invitation stands. If you don't want to talk about creepy stuff on your show, you have a welcome invitation to come talk to us about it anytime.
Or anything, really.
Or anything. Because, we love what you cover on your show because it could be your road show was like scandals, but then the one I was listening to is like the distraction theory. So it's just anything that you want. So for folks who want to get on some tangents with some ladies, where can they find y'all?
Well, they can find us, at the corner of
We're just happy and healthy.
Yeah, we're just Ladies and Tangents everywhere.
Ladies and Tangents on Instagram, on TikTok, on Patreon. Are we Ladies and Tangents there?
Probably.
Yes.
Probably.
We'll link you in the show notes.
And then we are on pretty much any audio streaming platform and YouTube. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. Well, and y'all's TikToks are great. Go follow them immediately.
Yeah, if you like 60 seconds of us, maybe you'll like 60 minutes.
You pop up on my FYP all the time. I also follow you. But
I love it.
You're great. Yeah.
You guys are awesome.
Y'all
Thanks
are
for
so
being
much fun. We're going to add you immediately to the Coven.
Yes, and we gotta have our Dollywood. Please. We gotta get with Taylor and Morgan from Creeps and Crimes because they're there near Dollywood and they're gonna spearhead our event. So we gotta call Dollywood up and make
we're all going to Dollywood and y'all gotta
call the agents. We gotta make it Dollywood.
Everybody's going to Dollywood.
I love it.
Listen, all the moms on TikTok went and like all the mom influencers that's what they call them, went on some kind of a fun time. Well, it's our turn now.
Yeah,
let's go.
I want to do something like that.
Yeah. And you're talking with them next week, so
we'll hook it up.
There we go.
Yes.
We're all in it. We're all in it. And
I can't wait.
Like we said, if you're all in Ohio, so Detroit or
Columbus or Pittsburgh.
Well, y'all I don't know where things are. I just show up on the plane and they tell me where to go. I never know where I'm going.
Honestly, because Tommy drives us on tour, the times that I'll be like, "Hey Siri, what city am I in?" And it's like, "You are in Ogden, Utah, or whatever." I'm like, "Thank you," because I don't know.
We don't ever know.
But we will be in Columbus and then right after in Pittsburgh. So if you're in either of those cities or would like to be, we'd love to have you to the show.
Yes.
And but until then, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for
Jeri
talking with us.
Thank you so much
for having us.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much again, Jeri and Ciara, for sending in your Freaky Friday stories, and to everyone else that sent in their Freaky Friday stories. If you have an odd but true story, maybe you've encountered Bigfoot, you've seen a UFO, you had a brush with true crime, or you felt the presence of an otherworldly being, send them in at sinisterhood.com/Freaky Friday. If you like our free episodes, you'll love our Patreon bonus content. You can join for free to see what we're up to next, or dive into over 500 hours of bonus content, like our upcoming minisode on the recent tragedy associated with an old viral sensation.
You can also head to Sinisterhood.com and click shop on the top banner to check out Sinisterhood merch, like t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, and even clothes for your kiddos.
While you're there, you can also review the show, follow us on socials, and check out the episode description for more fun like topic-based playlists and links to live show tickets.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Sinisterhood Pod. Like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. You can go to YouTube and TikTok. Go to YouTube for the full video interview with Jeri and Ciara, and just feel like you were there.
Yeah,
that's so much fun.
Worth the price. Actually, YouTube's free.
It's $0. Yeah,
$0. Yeah. Go for sure. Go watch it. Then it doesn't cost you anything.
Not at all. And go to our TikTok and check out some clips that we've posted there on TikTok as well. And if you want us to make a video with you in mind, we'll go to cameo.com and search up Sinisterhood. You can have us create a custom video shout out for yourself or for a Sinisterhood fan in your life. We can say happy birthday, happy anniversary, good luck, Godspeed, whatever you want us to say. Let us know.
At midnight. We'll do whatever you want. To a point. I shouldn't say that we'll do whatever you want. We're going to get.
We have to be careful being like, hire us on Cameo. We do whatever you want, man. This is not OnlyFans. You go. Yeah, we are fully clothed. Maybe some props. I don't know. Just depends on how much information.
We will incorporate props, and we've had a recent request for a special prop. So
upon request. So yeah. Put it in there. Let us know what you want us to say. Go to cameo.com and search Sinisterhood. Christy, where are you at online?
I'm on Instagram at Christy M. Wallace and TikTok at Christy or GTFO. Heather?
Pretty much everywhere at Heather versus the World.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy. Sinisterhood.